Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
I truly feel my job with great people like this gentleman is to provide information. But today, we're going to do that in a different way. We're going to talk about the misinformation that's out there when it comes to your financial situation and financial in general. There's so much confusion, things we hear, we wonder if they're true. He's been working in this arena for a very long time in terms of life insurance, financial strategy. Robb Hill is with us from Robb Hill Enterprises. Robb, welcome back. How are you today?
I'm doing great, and thank you for having me.
It's great to have you back. And it is, I'm first off, I'm going to say here, I almost don't want to say this, but I have to be honest, as I always am. I am financially illiterate. I just got, get by like most people. I know a little, but not nearly enough. And that's where your expertise comes in. And what do you think is the beginning point here when it comes to this misinformation about our financial situations?
Well, the first thing begins, the first situation we want to realize is that we are living in what is called a consumer-driven economy. And what we've got to understand is that when the producer names a tune, the consumer has got to dance. Okay? So now we've got everybody in the world producing everything, and they're shipping it here because the United States of America is the world's #1 consumer.
But not the world's #1 manufacturer.
Right. It used to be that way back at the end of World War II. We were the supreme manufacturer. Now we have become the supreme consumer, and every place in the world has their hands in our pocket.
I think we forget about that. And the reminder is, I would assume, when you buy, let's say, a TV, where's that TV made? Everything. What's made here? And it gets to the point where we have to put a sticker or something on it that says made in America to make sure that people understand that it's coming from the States.
Well, yes, but then I would submit to you this right here. The idea of making things is not here anymore. All that technology has been transferred overseas. Let me explain something to you about what every other country understands except America. This is when quantity demand is satiated, quality demand kicks in. Let me explain that to you. This is why you remember back, you're about my age. You remember when all those electronics were coming over from China and they were junk. It was, I mean, you can get 3 or 4 radios, and it would last for a little while, then it just wouldn't work anymore.
I'm a techie, as is all my friends that I grew up with, and we would even joke about that. We would even have funny names for the manufacturers. We change them around. So yeah, I'm totally on your page, Robb.
Right. So what the rest of the world realizes that America doesn't realize is that when quantity demand is satiated, quality demand kicks in. This is why Toyota started producing Lexus, why Honda started producing Acura. Okay? They up the quality. Also, the price and all that goes up. And you got that socioeconomic status now that's just beaming all over the place. So yeah, I got a Lexus. I mean,
Yeah.
it was just a Toyota. It's a Toyota.
Right. So, that being said, let me ask you this while we're here, and I don't mean to digress. I think I'm in the zone. Brands like Kia, if you go back 15 years-ish, somebody would say, he's driving a Kia. Really? Oh, I guess you're having some financial challenges. Or a Hyundai.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of spun around. Like, I'll look at a Kia. My friend has one. My car was in the shop, so I drove her car. I was like, this is not a bad car at all. How did that change? How did the perception change, or did the quality change?
No, actually, it was like I said, when quantity demand is satiated, quality demand kicks in. So you get a bunch of those little disposable cars. They do good for what you bought them for, but now we're in a different level. Now we want to step up our game a little bit, and so that's what the manufacturers around the world are doing. And the United States of America is the testing ground.
Oh, wow.
We buy everything. You remember when they had pet rocks for sale?
Totally.
Yeah, you know what? I just went out and got me a bunch of wild rocks. I
and,
domesticated them myself, you know.
and did you have a mood ring on at the time?
Well, I mean, think about that. The United States of America, we our population has been so dumbed down, and we don't understand economics. Like you take this thing about inflation. They tell you about inflation. Things are costing more. Things are costing more. You know what? Inflation is a myth. What's really going on is your dollar is losing value.
Mm.
That's what's really going on. See, if you look at a dollar bill, it says on there, this note is legal tender for all debts, public and private. What that means is IOU.
It's a piece of paper.
That's what that means. That's what it means. They took us off the gold standard, put it into this petrodollar situation, and now that system is imploding. You're talking trillions of dollars. Can you even wrap your mind around that? I mean, we have to be totally ignorant to accept what they're putting down on us.
It's also conditioning, right, Rob? As
Oh,
years.
we've been conditioned from way back when we first got into school. That's where the conditioning begins. And now they're so blatant with it. It's on the TV. It's everywhere you look. It's everywhere you look. They want an ignorant population. That's what they want because they are easy to control. And how do you control them? You pull their financial strings. That's what you do. That's what they're doing.
Well, what did I say when we first started? I admitted I'm financially illiterate by and large. You know, when it comes to investments, somebody else is taking care of that. I look at it, but I'm not 100% sure what's going on. I don't even think I'm maybe 60% sure. You trust in other people. How do we break the cycle of this, loosely I say ignorance?
You got to get a new perspective. You got to get some different information because all the decisions that you're making right now are based on the information that you've received up to this point. I found myself in a situation where I was listening to misinformed people. Okay.
Hmm.
So I had to change who I was listening to, where I was getting my information from. And it changed everything because once you walk away from the misinformation, you get into the real information, and then you start comparing that because there's only one way to get to the truth, just one. And I learned it the hard way, of course, and that is through comparison. Say, this sounds good compared to what? Okay,
Hmm.
so the only way to get to the truth is there's got to be a comparison in there.
And financial decisions are based on logic and emotion. So it has to seem like it makes sense.
Well, actually, I would submit to you that you're right. However, you got them in the wrong order.
Fair enough.
Okay. Because what should happen is we should use our logic to justify our emotions. But the reverse is happening. We're using our emotions to justify our logic. Well, I feel like it's not a feeling, it's a thought. We're thinking our way into these situations that we find ourselves in. And so what we have to do is we have to get the the horse in front of the cart instead of having the cart in front of the horse. Okay.
Totally
So
got it.
emotional decisions are the preeminent ruler. If you watch any TV at all and you see these commercials on TV, where are they plugging into you at? Emotionally. They're plugging into your emotions. And then we use our emotions to justify our logic, which is totally backwards. Totally backwards. You look at any commercial. I started looking at commercials in a whole different light when I realized that our emotions are being hijacked with all these commercials. You see all these people on there talking about this beer or whatever the case may be, and they're beautiful and everything is just dandy and all this kind of stuff. And you know what? Most of them probably don't even drink.
Mm.
they're actors.
Oh,
They're doing it. And so we sit back and we watch this stuff, and it keeps getting bombarded in you all day long. I mean, if you driving at night, man, and you look and you see these blue glowing lights in all these different windows, man, you wonder are we being invaded or what? All these blue lights from all these different windows, and what are they sitting in front of? They're sitting in front of the television. A funny name, right? Listen to that. Television. Okay. Television. You are being manipulated. You sit back and you watch these commercials, and it goes way back when the United States became this world supreme manufacturer, and they started making all this stuff. And so, well, where we're going to sell it at? Well, we couldn't very well sell it overseas because they were decimated. What we're going to do? Then they invented advertising, and they said we're going to start selling it to the Americans. At the time when they started doing that, nobody was really making any money. So they said, well, we can't let that happen, because it used to be if you wanted something, you saved up the money and then you went and got it. The powers that be said, no, we can't let that stand. No, give it to them on payment terms. Right? So now you're shackled, right? It's deep. It's really deep. And so for a person to come out of that, because they're looking at all these things they need. They got 200 channels on their TV and all this kind of stuff, and they don't have any life insurance. But they got that TV. They got the big screen TVs. They got the SUV sitting in the driveway. And they can't rub two nickels together. Just broke on a different level. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
I've been in situations where I'm seeing people, they have to decide whether they're going to pay for their medication or buy groceries.
I've even know of people that will make sure that they have a top model cell phone, but they're financially struggling, but they have the cell phone. And back to your point, Rob, in terms of advertising, the principles have been around forever. Fear, sex, vanity, love. Those are the emotions, just some of them. There's about 7 of them. Fear is a big one, and it's right. You know what I'm saying, right?
Fear is the biggest one. That's the biggest trigger. Fear. And you know what the acronym for that is? False evidence appearing real. Yes.
Yeah. It's one of my favorite acronyms. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. I mean, they've got that, and plus status. Status. Yeah. You know, I got an acronym for status. Still too arrogant to understand success. Okay. They just want to look the part. They're not really the part. They're looking the part. Because I've seen the situations where they look good and they smell good and they're flat broke.
Yeah. Yep. How do you turn that around? Let's say somebody is financially struggling and says to themselves, "Oh, you know what? Yeah, all right. I've made these choices. It's time to get back on track." Where would you begin with that?
Well, the beginning has to begin with the mindset. See, if you don't know where you are, you don't know how to get to where you want to go. So you got to sit down and you got to figure out where you are. If your outgo is more than your income, your upkeep will be your downfall. Okay, so you got to get a good grip on where you're at. And another thing that I picked up in all the books and the literature that I've read over the years, there's a book called The Richest Man in Babylon. It's by George S. Clason. And in that book, he explained that a portion of all that you earn is yours to keep. It should not be less than 10%.
Say that again. Say that again. Let's make sure we got that.
A portion of all that you earn is yours to keep. Okay. You remember you've heard of pay yourself first, right?
Haven't heard it in a while, but thank you for reminding me.
Right. Well, see, you can't pay yourself first if you're a W-2 wage earner. You got to pay yourself second because somebody's already been there. Okay. The government, they now people talk about paying taxes. We're not paying taxes. They're taking taxes. We're not paying it. They're taking it. Okay. And so what we got to do is we got to get a firm grip on where we are. And then we got to decide where we're going to be. Let me give you an analogy. Right now, where you are in New York, in the harbor, there's one of them big old Carnival cruise lines sitting out there. Okay. And it's going to the Bahamas. Do you know that for 99.9% of the trip, they cannot see the Bahamas? But the captain knows that if they do certain things every day, they'll get there. Okay. Now, that's just a metaphor. That Carnival Cruise Line is your mind. And you have got to feed your mind the correct information to become financially solvent. Okay. Because it's not what you make, it's what you keep that counts. Okay.
Hmm.
So then we got to understand that all these frivolous things that we're spending money on, that's just going right out the window, it's not helping us at all. So what we need to do is we got to learn how to make that money work for us. Life insurance is a beautiful thing. However, whenever you have a beautiful thing and you add people to it, things get perverted. Okay, which is why I do things the way I do. I make sure that we have total understanding about what type of insurance you got and all this kind of stuff. I mean, it's total transparency because I was just with a guy yesterday and he's 81 years old and all the insurance that he thought he had is gone. Why? Because he got it through his employer. And that's, you get that at a group rate.
Hmm.
Okay. But once you stop working, oh, and so well, you can't have this now, or you can have it, but then the premium is 10, 20 times what you've been paying, and you're not gonna pay it. And so they just got that money and gone. Okay. Now, when he got that policy, which is a good thing, it's a good thing to have insurance. But when he got that policy at the same time, what needs to happen is he needed to get a whole life policy outside of that. You understand what I'm saying?
Well, we talked about this last time we got together, and your suggestion is whole and term.
Right.
What did you say last time? And how would you address this when somebody
This,
says,
this,
"I can't afford, insurance, life insurance. I mean, things are tight right now. That now it's another payment." What are your thoughts
mhm.
on that? I'm sure
This,
that's the number one thing you hear.
this is what people need to look at. What I mean, where actually is your money going, and are you going to get a return on it? Okay. No, everybody wants to be entertained. We live in a microwave society. Everybody wants everything right now.
Yep.
However, there is going to be a tomorrow coming. It's not promised, but let's just say you wake up and it's tomorrow, and you've used up everything yesterday. This is where a lot of people find themselves. See, the position that a person is looking at things has got to change because a lot of people look at this thing called retirement and they look at it as an age, and it is not an age. It has nothing to do with your age. You can turn 65, and if you don't have no money, guess what? You're not retired, my friend. You have been fired. You've outlived your usefulness, and they kick you out to the pasture. And our illustrious government needs to have dependents to justify why they're there. Totally against the way this country was founded. Totally against all of that. But then when you have an ignorant population, you can roll all this stuff on them because they don't know no better. They don't know no better. Freedom is reserved for knowledgeable and virtuous people. We have slipped out of both of those areas.
I gotta tell you, Rob, I love your brutal honesty. Like even the talking about somebody who's 65, you didn't plan and you fired. That's it. That you're out the pasture. Sorry, don't pass
Yeah,
go. Yeah.
yeah. It's a sad thing because I mean, you think about the all the clues that have been out here. Look at Enron and WorldCom. And do you know that all pensions, public and private, are underfunded by $1.75 trillion right now?
Mm.
Right now, you're gonna get to the cupboard and the cupboard is bare. What are you gonna do? Well, hello, welcome to Walmart. Okay, these people are not working because they don't have nothing to do. If you had some money, you could find something to do.
It's so
They are working to make both ends meet. Now, that term right there, make ends meet, what does that mean? Want to make both ends make both ends meet. Is that the coming together of something to make a full circle or whatever the case may be? Or is it to make both ends meet is something to eat? Right? I want meat on both ends, right? Okay. But I digress. I mean, I think about it, I look at the just total just misinformation. Just misinformation.
well, all
I
these
mean,
things that we're talking about, many of us don't know. So, I call it also the ignorance, and unfortunately, we're all so busy trying to make ends meet that we don't absorb this. We're so scattered. And then what do? Flip on the TV. What do I got? Because I want to be entertained. I want to escape from all of this, but there's no escaping when you're that person who is, let's say, 65 and didn't save, and you're sitting there, and now, what am I going to do? You've been churning up until that point, and it gets to a point where you're not. Either you can't work anymore, or you can't find work anymore. Um, yeah, we're almost out of time. Love what we're talking about today. How do we make those changes with you? Just even on a starting point.
well, I put together a lecture series. It goes wills and trust, long-term care, safe alternatives to the stock market, and final expense. I call this program Back to Basics. It's a 4 lecture series. Okay, and information about it can be found on my website. I'm currently in the state of Illinois, and I run all over Illinois. If you're somewhere else, and we can definitely talk about how we can implement this program in your area too. Uh, we begin with the end in mind. We formulate that exit strategy first, and then we go back and address everything else. Because, like I said before, it's not what you make; it's what you keep that counts. You want to keep it in the family. Only 3% of the wealth created in one generation makes it to the 4th generation. Why is that? It's because we have a government that hasn't. It's got you can't service the greed of our government. I mean, they just take and take and take. See, what a lot of people don't understand is that everything that the government promises to the people, it must first take from the people, because government does not produce anything. Okay. Well,
And
I don't get it.
I don't
Uh-huh.
jump into politics deeply, but I'm living in New York and I'm in a suburb, and our taxes, I drive to or fly to California, Florida, and I look at everything there. It's beautiful. The roads are paved, perfect. There's no debris. It looks wonderful. And they're paying close to half the taxes. Just wonder, where's that money going? Trying to figure that all out. They have a fire department. We have a fire department. They have a school. We have a school. I have this conversation with friends all the time. Um, what's your website? How do we find you?
It is www.rhillenterprisesinc.com. rhillenterprisesinc.com. And my phone number is 773-765-4491. My book, Ask the Right Questions, Get the Right Answers for Sound Financial Retirement Planning, is available at many, many booksellers, Amazon to Walmart to Target to, they've got it all online. You can get it practically anywhere. And we've got to wake up.
Yeah.
We've got to wake up. Um, the only reason why things are happening the way they are happening is because of the same thing that you said just a few moments ago. I don't really get into politics. You know, see, politics is the science of government. And if we don't control our government will control us. See, here in this country, what everybody seems to know that Americans don't seem to know is that we have a government of, by, and for the people. But when you got an ignorant people, the government runs, they just do whatever they want to do. We need to hold these people accountable. All right, we're paying too much. We're paying too much.
We're paying
These
them.
people, These people are making too much money to look at what they're doing to this country. And I digress. I get a little heated
No,
sometimes
I
because
appreciate it, but I also appreciate the wake up call, Rob. Great having you on. Love your love your honesty. Yeah, and we need to wake up. Thank you for being
yes,
here today. Really appreciate it.
I do appreciate being on, and I look forward to seeing you again.
I'm gonna go shopping for a Kia. Good or
Yeah,
bad? Not a bad car. Kind of cheap, you know.
my brother's got one.
Ah, there you go. Is he happy with it?
Yes, he is. He's very happy with it.
We'll talk more, but look forward next time we get together.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.